Hello everybody, my name is Jeremy and welcome back to the Kanto region here in Viridian City once again. We are probably about halfway through the process of building this city and it's coming together pretty nicely. I think by the end of this episode, I think I have a really good grasp of what I'm doing here and what the vibe of this place is. And the first thing we're working on here is a park that I'm taking a lot of inspiration from real life in Aomori City. There is this kind of long park that stretches through much of the downtown area that very clearly has taken the place of some old train tracks that used to run through the city, used to cut it in half. And so I'm taking some inspiration from that here. I don't finish this park in this episode. This is going to be kind of a multi-episode thing. I didn't want to get too far out from the downtown area just yet. But before we get too far into the episode, we have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. Folks, when this episode is public, when the general public is viewing this, I will be welcoming my second child into the world. My daughter will have been born. This is coming out a couple days after her due date, and I'm super excited. I can't wait. And what that means for you all is my time is going to become a lot more sparse. I'm not going to be able to play with the regularity that I used to. I'm not going to be able to put out episodes with the regularity that I used to, at least for a while, as I get into the swing of having two kids. So I think what that's going to mean is I'm going to be uploading less frequently. I am pretty far ahead on episodes right now. I'm trying to bank as many as I can before she's born so that, I can keep a regular upload schedule during that time and get through, those first hectic couple of months while I figure out kind of what my lifestyle, what my workflow is going to be like in this new reality. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a every other week release schedule. Which I know is kind of probably tough to hear, but it's just what I have to do to make this channel keep working, to keep videos coming out, and to make the ones that I'm banking stretch as far as they can. So sorry, but real life takes priority, obviously. So that's that. Let's get into what we're doing on screen. So I've kind of used these paths here to kind of chalk out the space where I see there having been a turn in the train heading out kind of really in the direction of Pallet Town. I think in the lore, I'm going to say that this probably was heading out towards maybe what did I say it was called? Terracotta City or something like that. There's a city on the other side of the mountain from Pallet Town in the anime series that I'm going to say probably that this train used to head out towards, and maybe there's going to be an industrial area down at the end. I have to figure out something to justify why this train would have turned the way that it does, because right now it just heads out towards Pewter City, and that's it. Maybe there'll be an old rail yard down there that they no longer need the high capacity of. I don't know. Something like that. We'll figure it out later. But for now, just kind of building a fun, very organically curvy shaped park right next to the train tracks. I put some statues in it just to kind of zhuzh it up a little bit, give it a little bit of, something other than just trees and dirt, which is what I would normally be doing here. And that's pretty much it for that build. We're moving on to other projects here. We're kind of right next to the train station right now. And I wanted to figure out some way to end the park, and I figure it makes sense that this kind of big bike path and the big pedestrian path would kind of lead to the train station. And I needed something here to kind of fill in the space otherwise. So I put this big residential tower, and like everything else in this series, it is kind of on a big intense hill that is an irregular shape. So I got to build some sort of a platform underneath it. In this case, I'm opting for the procedural object square that you can put your own texture on. I'm not really doing that as much in this series as I have in the past. I haven't updated my textures in a while. I still have a lot of the ones from Silver Republic. I still have a lot of the ones from Vogelstad in that folder. So I'm pretty limited on what I can use, what I have access to. This one, I think, is just like some gray bricks that are just pretty generic and standard, so that'll work for our purposes. And otherwise, just kind of putting some fences on top of here just so that people can't fall off the 10-foot drop that exists on the side of it. Using these Lord Grooney planters that I've never used them before. I've used his grass ones and his dirt ones before. I've never used these ones with the pebbles at the bottom. I think they look really cool. I don't know if they're particularly realistic to Japan, but something about them kind of looks very Japanese to me. So they stay, and I think they look pretty nice. Now we're going to work on a bridge crossing the river. We've got a bunch of these little bridges that, maybe they're superfluous. I think that would be a pretty fair criticism of them. We don't necessarily need river crossings in all these places, but I like the look of a lot of bridges going over the river. I like having a lot of these fun truss arches that are like similar but a little different from each other. And that's that. It's a pretty cool looking little bridge, I feel. Once I get this fence into place, that's pretty much it. This one's got a nice sort of foot to it. The way that it kind of curves into the ground looks really nice and integrates itself nicely with the seawalls, so I don't end up building any sort of a custom abutment for this one. But there is a second one coming that I do, and not that it's particularly interesting or exciting, but I do build a second bridge with a second abutment to it. And otherwise, just continuing that same sort of seawall with a fence over it design. I think that's going to be the one that I use for the most part, at least in this city. I have some other like keys and walls and stuff that I think could make sense for other places, but I don't know. I feel like this probably would have all been done at about the same time, so it would make sense to make them all out of the same materials. This is not a Japanese building. This is I believe it's just labeled as generic office, but it's a nice, just standard looking filler building. I think once it's in here, it fits the environment pretty well. It makes sense in the city, and it's nice because it has a bunch of different kind of modular shapes that you can use to achieve interesting space fillers, which is exactly what I needed here, because this little block is kind of just a bizarre shape that I just didn't know what else to do with, unless you have a building that is like exactly that shape. It's going to be tough because we're pretty close to downtown, so the buildings still have to be pretty large. And, again, on a weird hill, so I kind of have to build a platform around it with some stairs. This one, I really like the way this one turns out. It looks really depressing, and that's kind of exactly what I was going for here. I wanted this to kind of be just like a real kind of soulless sort of corporate building, and I think it looks exactly right in that regard. This is something that maybe you've noticed by now in this series, but I do an awful lot of lines of the small version of the wild hedge. It is just the absolute best tree asset, best asset in general for if you have kind of an edge area that you just don't know what to do with. I would highly suggest trying out the wild hedges in a line. It just always looks kind of right, It maybe gets a little tiresome after a while. It gets a little grindy. A little less unique than perhaps I would like, but I think it works all right. These are pretty new to the workshop, by the way. As of building this episode, they were brand new. As of you hearing this, they're probably a month or two old. But these are some Japanese houses in the Japanese Easy House set that I think it's by Koma. I may be mistaken on that. Don't quote me. but they're awesome, and they come with these platforms already built into them, so they work really nicely on hills. I'm surprised that wasn't a development sooner. Every Japanese city, for the most part, is extremely hilly and mountainous. All these regions are, they're not flat. It's not the Netherlands, that's for sure. And, I'm surprised that so many of the Japanese assets require you to build them on flat land for them to look right. But I'm glad that there is an option, at least now, for something else. And here I go again with the small hedges. I guess maybe I shouldn't have pointed it out. Maybe it was a trick that I was getting away with. I don't know. Here we're doing another bridge. It looks extremely similar to the first bridge, but it is actually different. It's a different asset. The trussing is a little more elaborate, I guess would be the word for it. It's just got some extra supports. Not that it particularly needs it. It's a very small bridge. Probably could have just been, done with just an abutment on either side of it. I bet would probably have supported the weight of this bridge. But I think they look cool. So sue me. They're gonna be making appearances in this city. I really like truss bridges. That's just. I think, if I was going to say that I have a favorite type of bridge, I'd probably say metal truss bridges are it for me. Now over here, we're kind of next to the highway, trying to fill in this little area. Really now kind of coming up against the scaling restrictions that I placed on myself. I put down this highway first so that I would have kind of I would have an end point. I wanted to make sure that there was somewhere that I couldn't really sprawl too far past. And, we're here now, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I kind of am a little worried that I made it too small, and the scaling is going to be too far off. But we'll see. We'll see when the rest of the city is built, because it is going to sprawl pretty far into the valley, and maybe that'll maybe aid in it a little bit. We'll see. So now I'm putting down this big office building that's got kind of like a nice little second space, kind of like a shorter auxiliary building next to it. And when this is done, I think this really adds a very special element to the skyline of the city. I think it looks perfect where it is, right next to the train station. I definitely do not provide it enough parking, but I imagine that a lot of the people who are working here are either walking, because this is a very walkable city. It's pretty compact and pretty dense. But I would say a lot of people are probably walking to work, a lot of people are probably riding bikes to work, and a lot of people are probably taking the train to work, would be my guess. This is literally right next to the train station. There is an exit from the platforms right next to it. So maybe it's a big commuter's office. Who knows? I do give it some parking pretty shortly, but it's definitely not enough. And maybe that's a problem throughout the whole series. Maybe I'm not giving anybody enough parking. Let me know what you think. Am I giving enough parking? Does it matter? Do you really care? Hit me up in the comments if you feel that I need more parking. And this is a pretty simple one. Again, just using that sort of procedural objects square to create a red brick platform. I'm trying to keep, I think I've talked about this before, but I'm trying to keep the color palette in this city pretty strictly in the red and green sort of families. I'm not trying to put a whole lot of blue outside of like building roofs. I think that's kind of the only place that I'm really trying to do a lot of blue color. I think it kind of adds a nice little third element to the palette, but I think the colors are really coming out nice here, personally. I don't know if you feel the same. This is a very steep hill, by the way, that is once again pretty difficult to work around, but I do manage with some of these platformed houses. And then we just kind of butt right up against the highway. I did just download a sound barrier asset that I'm going to probably add in a later video, probably when I do my kind of like final touches episode like I did in Pallet Town. I'll come back and do that. These are awesome, these buildings. These are, I think they're called Japanese old houses. They're just kind of really generic looking. They look like it's a shop on the bottom. And they do count as residential, which is interesting. I mean, I know that that's a thing in Japan. A lot of people just kind of have a shop in the bottom of their house because of, like I talked about in a previous episode, zoning in Japan is very different than it is here in the United States. I don't think they would even consider that to be like mixed use. I think that's just kind of how some people live is how they consider it. And here I'm using a different type of hedge to close in this parking lot. And yeah, look at that thing. That is a dinky little parking lot for such a big building. But, there's some parking for the train next to it. So maybe that's okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too America-brained right now talking about it. Over here, just kind of working my way down the hill now, trying to figure out how I'm going to negotiate this gigantic fat road that also goes sharply downhill. I think I do actually manage it pretty nicely with some platformed buildings like this one. This is the only gas station in Viridian City so far. I haven't really been paying as close of attention as I perhaps should to the types of buildings that I'm putting down. I feel like I did that a lot in Pallet Town, and I don't want to say I'm failing to do it in this one, but I'm definitely not doing it as much as I'd like to. So I'm going to try to focus on that going forward, putting down stuff that the city needs. For example, I still haven't put down any shrines or any temples. I haven't officially put any fire or police or hospital or anything like that. We do have all three of those just as kind of block services, just so people would actually live here and everything wouldn't just burn down immediately. Over here, I'm doing this, I believe it's like an udon shop or a ramen shop or something like that. It's a restaurant of some type, giving it this nice big platformed parking area that I realized pretty shortly after putting it down is not quite big enough for parking spaces. So I kind of have to squeeze them in a little bit, which I guess is fine. I guess it makes some sense that they didn't really have all the space in the world to build a parking lot, and a lot of people in the city just walk or take the bus. I think buses are going to be a big thing here. I haven't gotten around to it just yet, but yeah, I think that's going to be probably a pretty big mode of transportation, and I think that ended up looking pretty okay, if I do say so myself. Just trying to kind of cram in a bunch of buildings here. That's a big flavor of the city, is cramming. I want it to look super dense in a very small area. That's kind of the urban design scheme that I'm going for here. Just trying to find like a lot of the smallest buildings, or the ones that are like a bunch of them kind of pushed together. I think it looks really nice. I think it makes it make more sense that the footprint of the city is as small as it is. And now this is the last project of the episode. I have this kind of random little space here that is on a sharp hill that I need to do something with. Off camera, I tried a bunch of different iterations of small buildings here that just didn't make sense. So I decided to put these two apartment blocks kind of right next to each other like this, with a little courtyard in the middle, some stairs to help people get up that sharp incline up to the platform. And then on the other side of it is just a plain old platform. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward build. It's just a little courtyard with a tree and some pathways and stuff. This is the end of the episode, though, folks. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for spending your Friday with me. My name's Jeremy. You can find me on Twitter at @JeremyThunder. You can check out my podcast, Generation Loss. It's about movies. You can check out the asset collections are in the description of the episode. You can support the channel by becoming a channel member and get early access to every episode. You can send me some money on my Buy Me a Coffee link. I got a new baby coming, and she needs stuff. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.